yeah, we're back from San Diego. One of the things that I did in San Diego was I went to the San Diego Comic-Con. This is one of the largest cultural events in America. 124,000 people show up at the San Diego Convention Center and talk about, I know, movies, comic books, but it's also Legos, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, media, TV shows, and yes, even the news. I got to have a party with my agency, and the talk there was how all of media is dead. And even animators and stuff, guys are all out of work and going, how are we going to find a job in the world of AI? Funnier still was I was sitting there with my conservative friend. We were two of the only Trump supporters in the room, and they were basically cracking up going, wow, everything you guys told us over the last 4 years ended up proving to be true. This is about the destruction of the Hollywood control of the leftist narrative of media, telling people what to think. We're going to show you a step-by-step proof of how it all fell apart. The crack really blew up when Biden lost that debate, when the lie was revealed that the emperor had no clothes. Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is where the Happy Patriots are. We're going to start with Laura Trump.
It was the moment Democrats couldn't spin. The debate that shattered the illusion. The man they said was sharp as ever instead stood bewildered on stage. And now we know why. According to his own son, President Biden was flying on fumes, exhausted, given Ambien, and sent out under the lights anyway. But don't take it from me. You can take it from Hunter.
Okay, this is his own, in the words of his own son, this criminal kid who got pardoned by his dad. Everyone lied about, remember, Hunter Biden was a fine artist for 4 years. They bought his works for tens of thousands of dollars. I'm a fine artist too. I do art shows all the time. I have a career in the fine arts of doing art shows for 35 years. I just had a show earlier this year you guys saw out in Moscow, Idaho. I know about the fine art world. No one wants to buy Hunter Biden's artwork now because it was always a giant scam.
I'll tell you what, I know exactly what happened in that debate. He flew around the world, basically, the mileage that he could have flown around the world 3 times. Yeah. He's 81 years old. He's tired as They give him Ambien to be able to sleep. He gets up on the stage, and he looks like he's a deer in the headlights.
Okay, but here's the real scandal. If Joe Biden wasn't mentally or physically able to do the job, then who was? House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comr is looking into just that. So far, only 2 of the president's top aides have answered any of the committee's questions.
And they're going to bring all of the witnesses in. There's a lot. A lot of people on the inside saw what Biden did. So I know that most of them are pleading the fifth. Not all of them are going to plead the fifth. And any amount of information that any of them give up about the Autopen scandal is going to reveal more. We're going to get back to Hollywood in just a minute. I just wanted to let Laura Trump finish this segment real quick.
The others have pleaded the fifth, staying silent on whether there was an inner circle signing executive actions on Biden's behalf, of course, using the Autopen. So I headed to Capitol Hill to get an update on the investigation. Chairman James Comr, thanks so much for sitting down with us. We're here in the House Oversight Committee room. This is where a lot of hearings are happening. And, you know, President Trump has talked about this Autopen scandal. He's talked about the fact that this is probably the biggest political scandal in American history. What evidence do you have right now that would suggest that Joe Biden was not mentally fit, especially towards the end of his presidency?
Well, we've all seen the Tapper book. We've all seen interviews from former Biden staffers that say...
we all saw Biden himself during the debate where he clearly was not in control and could not drive the car.
They were blocked from meeting with the president, especially towards the last 1 year of his presidency. But what we've done in this investigation, we've brought Dr. O'Connor, the White House physician, in. We asked a simple question: were you ever told to lie about President Joe Biden's health? And he pled the Fifth Amendment. I think that's pretty damning evidence that the president wasn't mentally fit. We brought the first witness in, Neera Tanden, and she answered our questions. But Neera Tanden basically said that, you know, Joe Biden was shielded from a very small inner circle. She identified that inner circle. And I think from that point on, you've had a coordination from all the other witnesses, and they're all coming in and pleading the Fifth Amendment. I think everyone knows you only plead the Fifth to avoid self-incrimination.
The people on the inner circle, so there's an exterior circle around Biden that knew there was a problem, and then there was an inner circle that not only knew there was a problem, but they denied access to the president, Biden. So that inner circle are probably the ones that were running the Autopen.
This is a massive cover-up, and what President Trump says is exactly right. This is the biggest scandal in the White House in my lifetime.
So you've said that this could be a 25th Amendment level breach. You know, what are the constitutional stakes here?
If you get a president that's in mental decline, like it appears Joe Biden was, then the cabinet is supposed to step forward and invoke the 25th Amendment. Clearly, the Biden administration did not do that. If you watch interviews from people like Pete Buttigieg, he's saying, look, I wasn't around Joe Biden towards the end. I think other cabinet secretaries are going to come out and say this, especially the ones who look in the mirror and see a political future. So
now they're all going to suddenly say, Joe Biden, who? I wasn't around him. So they went from claiming that Joe Biden had the most unprecedented access, was their claim, even though he would not do debates, he would not conduct interviews. They're going, look, we're talking to the president. He's offering himself up, and they totally hit him. And now all of the people, Pete Buttigieg especially, are coming out and going, look, I didn't have access to the guy. I didn't know him. I didn't understand. That is the narrative that got broke. Now, on breaking, I have a very important interview here. This is with the FCC commissioner. This is one of my favorite guys in the world. He was on the FCC and now became the commissioner, the head of the FCC, Brendan Carr. Brendan Carr of the FCC talks about how Hollywood lost its grip. And remember, this is one of the guys that helped Trump win that lawsuit against CBS and 60 Minutes, because they're basically bringing the hammer down on media, and he also destroyed the narrative over at PBS. This is Brendan Carr over on Hollywood losing its grip on the ability to control your mind.
Yeah, something really significant is happening right here. And it goes back to President Trump. When he ran for office again, he ran directly at these legacy national broadcasters. And for years, people cowed down to the executives behind these companies based in Hollywood, in New York, and they just accepted that these national broadcasters could dictate how people think about topics, that they could set the narrative for the country. And President Trump fundamentally rejected it.
He reiterates, this was the way people think in Hollywood and the way people think in New York. We're dictating to everyone else what to think. You might think that's a very strange concept, but it's not. It's been that way for almost 100 years, by the way. I look to the arts and I look to fashion and stuff like that. These are the ones that start the trends, tell you what is trending. If something goes out of fashion, from a style of your shirt to a political concept, they're the ones that decide. By the way, they're the ones right now that are saying, Epstein is white hot. Everyone focus on Epstein. These are the fashion centers of America. They're the ones that tell you what to think. And Brendan Carr here is saying Trump smashed their power, their ability to control you. And remember, they have nothing outside of just trying to brainwash you. They don't have actual power. They have cultural power, which is you have to consent to give it to them, and we don't consent to give it to them anymore.
Smash the facade that these are gatekeepers that can determine what people think. And everything that we're seeing right now flows from that decision by President Trump, and he's winning. I mean, look, PBS has been defunded. NPR has been defunded. CBS is committing to restoring fact-based journalism. You see it, everything from—
I'm going to give you an example of that CBS fact-based journalism right after this clip. I'll show you an actual demonstration of CBS changing its tunes. Pretty amazing.
Joy Reid is gone at MSNBC. All these things aren't isolated pinpricks. They go back to this emperor has no clothes moment where President Trump stood up to these legacy media gatekeepers, and now their business models are falling apart.
Their business models no longer even work. So the market is catching up to their brainwashing. It's no longer profitable to lie. It was profitable for years. And now advertisers don't want to go there. Like I mentioned earlier about meeting with my agency. This is the top animation comic book agency in the world. represent me out there in Hollywood. And they're just watching all the funding drain out of Hollywood. It's going to AI, it's going to alternative media, it's going to YouTube. Even Netflix is trying to look like YouTube. You'll see YouTube talent being drawn into normal TV networks, and Hollywood are dying to work with normal YouTubers. We're gaining power. The independents are gaining power, and those giant structures are losing their power. Where's the biggest example of that? Right here. Let's look at this CBS News clip. I just want to show you this. This is CBS News, right? So these are enemies of Trump. They despise him. Liberals, all of them. They decided to settle out of court for the Kamala Harris lie interview on 60 Minutes, where they made her look smarter than she was, which isn't hard to do, make her look smarter than she actually is, on the Israel conflict with Gaza. Well, now they're reporting on Trump's economic breakthrough with the UK being one of the best deals in American history. And look, CBS News, they got fixed by Trump. They're back to telling the truth. And this is a positive story about Trump on CBS News. Watch this.
A major victory for President Trump that averts a painful trade war between the United States and the European Union.
Look at the little logo down there in the corner. It's the CBS logo, guys. That Trump blew it away with the whole European Union did an incredible financial deal.
The two trading partners exchanged $2 trillion in goods every year. CBS's Weijia Jiang is in Edinburgh, Scotland, traveling with the president. Weijia.
Good evening, Jerika. Heading into trade talks, President Trump set expectations for getting a deal done with the European Union, putting the chances at 50-50. And then after a meeting that lasted just over 1 hour, Trump announced they had reached an agreement.
We have good news. We've reached a deal.
President Trump announced the news from his luxury golf resort in Turnberry, where he hosted the president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen.
I think this deal will bring us very close together, actually. Sort of, it's a partnership in a sense.
It's a huge deal. It will bring stability. It will bring predictability. That's very important for our businesses on both sides of the Atlantic.
The two leaders said the tariff rate for imports from the EU's 27 member countries would be 15%, down from 30% that was set to kick in on Friday. The EU has agreed to purchase U.S. military equipment, $750 billion of U.S. energy, and invest an additional $600 billion in other sectors. And there's good news for U.S. companies that sell to EU nations.
They're agreeing to open up their countries to trade at zero tariff. So that's a very big factor.
So we hit them with a 15% tariff and they hit us with 0%. This is the largest financial jujitsu I've ever seen, and CBS are doing their job. They're healing. They hate Trump, but they're telling the truth. So this is incredible good news for culture. I'm telling you guys, 4 years ago, when I saw how bad it was with everyone just living under this giant lie, I go, how are they going to get out of this? Lo and behold, Trump broke the spell. I'm Doug in Exile. Subscribe.